Hi, it's Dwyer. It's Friday, November the 2nd, 2018. GamblersAdvisory.com, a free site. BettingAngle.us, a free site. Let's talk about 3 betting things I like. But first, remember, the opinion you should follow should be your own. Just consider this video to be a second opinion from a complete stranger online. Now, MVP winner James Harden has been dealing with a major hamstring issue, right? He's listed as doubtful for the Houston Rockets' next game. The Rockets have looked terrible. No question about it. They've looked awful. Defensively, they haven't shown up all year. Their record is something like 1-5. You're getting right now 11-1. You heard right, 11-1 on the Rockets to win it all. Now, all I'm saying to folks out there is if you're like me, if you're the kind of person who likes to pick up things when they're unpopular, right? Who shows up at buffets when they're not crowded, right? If you're a value investor or someone who understands that you can't go with what's popular if you want to pay less than full price, then it's my recommendation that you consider investing a little bit of your portfolio in the Houston Rockets right here. Folks, this team was the 1 seed in the Western Conference, the best conference last year. They were the 1 seed. At halftime of Game 7, yes, it went 7 games, of their playoff series against the Golden State Warriors. You remembered them, all those shooters, right? Practically the same crew that's there this year, right? KD, Klay Thompson, who set the record for most threes in a game. Steph Curry, who had the record that Klay Thompson just broke. You realize at halftime of that Game 7, the Houston Rockets were up on the Warriors. This was a Houston Rocket team without Chris Paul, who was hurt at the time. Chris Paul is back. So, I know Harden's banged up. I know Nene is banged up. I know the team looks terrible. If you believe in Houston like I do, if you understand that a play now is really so that you can have a hedging position later, and if you understand that you aren't going to get the Houston Rockets cheaper than 11-1, consider this Christmas. I think right here you need to throw a few dollars on the Houston Rockets. If they get as deep in the playoffs as I think they're going to, in other words, if they get to the NBA's Final Four, right, then at that point, you're practically printing money. At that point, they could list the Golden State Warriors as a -250 or a -300. And you'll be able to throw a lot of money on them because you got 11-1 odds on the Houston Rockets right now. I think Houston is a compelling play. Let's talk about a surprise play. A team you just need to keep a track of, because this team is not who they were last year. This is a different setup entirely. And that's the 6-3 Sacramento Kings. 6-3. Folks, let me just say this. A lot of players show up in the league. They have gone from playing against college students to playing against grown men who are professionals, who actually spend not 20 hours a week, but their professional lives developing their game as basketball professionals, right? And rookies often are overwhelmed. Then they get to the second year. When they go around the league this time, you know what? They've been to these other NBA arenas. They know the players now, right? Rather than say, Mr. Jones, now you can call the guy by his first name, right? A lot of players make big jumps their second year. I want people to pay close attention to De'Aaron Fox of Sacramento. Folks, he's barely recognizable. Let me just say, this guy has the speed, has the athleticism, has the game to possibly be a superstar. I believe the other day he had a triple-double. I want you to look at his recent performances, and I want you to remember that this guy left college early. Right? He's an NBA vet. He's a young guy. Let me name another guy. Marvin Bagley. You saw him in college last year. Very high draft pick. Right? I'm just telling you, he's on a minute restriction because there's no way this guy should be playing less than 30 minutes a game. In other words, the Sacramento Kings are looking at this rookie and they're trying to keep the horse in the barn. Right? Think Jordan when he was with Dean Smith. Right? Well, all I'm saying is Marvin Bagley right now, and it's not going to last, but it just shows you there are parts of his game you didn't see when he was in college. Marvin Bagley right now is hitting better than 50% from three-point range. Right? This guy can play. As this guy gets more minutes, because, again, one of the groups stopping him is his own coaching staff. I think you're going to be surprised by the outcome. Right? So as you look at the West, as everyone's blinded by LeBron wearing Laker colors, right? The traditional teams, San Antonio Spurs. Just understand, there's some new jacks on the block, right? Guys who won in college, who are in the pros, and who now are figuring their way around the new neighborhood. Right? The Sacramento Kings, folks, they're much better than last year. I'm talking about much better than last year. Keep an eye on them. You're going to get some lines, betting lines, based on who they were. Right? Typically, it takes the public a little bit to figure out, oh, you know what? These young guys have grown up a bit. They've grown up a bit in Sacramento. Let's talk about a game I like tonight. And this team's also different from last year. Right? Has anyone figured out that Mike Conley is back with the Memphis Grizzlies? You remember watching Memphis last year and they were having all kind of guard problems, and you had to look away at times from the TV, right? It was like, you know what? Mike Conley is one of the best in the game, folks. He's still one of the best in the game. You know that Memphis went to Utah this year on October the 22nd, and they beat Utah by 8. That's in Utah. Right? Utah this year. Right? Did you know that Memphis is on a 2-game winning streak where they've won both games by double digits? But yet, you're getting 7.5 points with the Memphis Grizzlies tonight against the Utah Jazz in Utah. Right? Sign me up right here. This team's winning by double digits. Mike Conley is back. Different team than last year. Right? Same uniform, same city. Different team than last year. And I'm getting 7.5 points. I know Utah has a lot of pride. I know they're going to show up. They're going to say, hey, we remember you guys. We're going to be better tonight. Right? I'll agree with all of that. But understand, there's some other things going on here. Memphis is starting a 3-game road trip. Right? That third game is going to be hard for them to win because they play KD, Clay, Steph, and them in Golden State. Game 3. Right? So let's just say you're starting a 3-game road trip. You're thinking, well, game 3 is going to be tough. Right? Teams tend to wilt as they go along on a multi-game road trip. Right? You miss home cooking a little bit that first day. by the last game of that road trip, man, you're dying to get back home. You're dying to see your family. You're dying to sleep in your bed again. Right? Well, let me just say, this is the start of the 3-game road trip. So Memphis is still relatively strong. They know that Golden State's going to be tough at the end of the road trip. So if they're going to win a game on this road trip, game 2's against Phoenix, I think they target this game. Let's say they're going to be pretty fresh at the start of the road trip. Understand, they're really going to be fresh because they last played on Tuesday, October 30th, right? Today's Friday. In other words, these guys rested, got a day off, traveled, got a day off, right? So these guys are showing up to the game rested. Now let's talk about Utah. Utah is coming off a loss at Minnesota, which was at the end of a 4-game road trip. Think about that. Right? So the Utah guys are dying to get home. 4 games on the road. They're dying to get home. Understand, their last game was Halloween, the 31st. In other words, they're less rested than Memphis. That's important, especially when you're laying 7.5 points, right? They're less rested than Memphis. So then you're thinking to yourself, okay, well, they're back home. Certainly they're going to be re-energized. They're going to go all out, aren't they? They're going to try to cover this 7.5 point spread. Not so fast. Think about altitude. Think about places where you're sucking wind for oxygen in the 4th quarter. Denver probably comes to mind. Right? The Mile High City. Folks, would it surprise you to know that this return home for the Utah Jazz is just a 1-gamer? They then have to go back on the road and play Denver in Denver. Who made up this schedule? It's even worse than that. After this game on Friday, they have to play Denver in Denver on Saturday. Right, folks? Even if they show up with their A game against Memphis, a team that's already beaten them in Utah, even if Utah shows up with its A game, even if Utah is rolling at the start of the 4th quarter, right? Let's say they got it all together. Everybody's hitting. Even Ricky Rubio's hitting outside shots. If they have it all working, the coach is going to start thinking about what he needs from the guys in the Denver game. He's going to start pulling players off the court, isn't he? Right? He's going to think to himself, okay, we're up big. We got this. We got this. Donovan, come hang out. Rudy, come hang out with me. Ricky Rubio, Ricky, I know you're hitting threes tonight. Come hang out with me. I need you guys tomorrow. We're going to leave this game. We're going to go to the airport. Or we're going to leave this game. Then I need you guys at the airport early tomorrow so we could travel to Denver. I think the scheduling hurts Utah. Right? I like Memphis tonight getting 7.5 points over the Utah Jazz. This is the kind of bet that you want to bet first before you tell your friends about it. Because they're going to run up to the counter, and I'm just telling you, I'm expecting the line to drop big time. So I like Mike Conley and the Memphis Grizzlies on the road at Utah, a place where they've already won by 8, getting 7.5 points tonight, November 2nd, 2018. That's how I see it. Let me hear from you. If there are any bets, any lines, any over-unders, any injuries that you want to share with the fellow gamblers here online, I hope you do so in the comment section of this video. Thanks for stopping by.